The sky above Sarathi Prime had a color that made people think of old storms. It was a wide, cold blue that could change in a moment. When children learned the old stories, they would ask their mothers why the world felt small under that sky. Mothers would say the world was not small, only watched. The elders remembered many things. They kept record of names of seasons and of a warning that lived in songs. Warning said, in simple words passed down like a river passing stones, let the humans never arrive. For generations the prayer had shaped the lives of the Sarathi. It was not spoken loudly in markets or in the bright places where children played. It lived in quiet rooms and in the halls of the council and in the slow, measured way the elders moved. The prayer had the power of shadow. Those who spoke it believed that somewhere beyond their maps a danger might exist. The prayer held fear and hope together. It told them to watch the edges of their world and to protect what they loved. On a small ship far from the capital, Captain Laura Bennett felt the same pull as the elders did, but through different things. She felt it in the hum of the engine, in the way the instruments blinked at her, and in the thin light that came from the viewport. Captain Laura had spent many years sailing near the borders. She had seen storms that bent metal and suns that burned paint. She had walked in cities where people argued over small things and in quiet places where old trees still stood. She believed in duty, and she believed that careful watching kept people alive. The scouting vessel Horizon moved like a slow thought through space. Its hull had small scars from old trips. The ship carried a small crew, each with a job that mattered. There was Samuel, the navigator, who read the maps and the stars like a baker read a recipe. There was Claire, who kept the ship's life systems from growing tired. There was Ryan, who fixed broken things with hands that knew how to find a loose wire without looking. Captain Laura trusted them. She trusted them the way a captain trusted the sea under a small boat. On this morning, which was not yet bright, the ship's instruments sent a rhythm into the cabin that made no sense at first. It was a soft pulse that arrived in the data stream, like a slow drum under the sea. Samuel called it a ripple. Claire called it a whisper. Ryan said it looked like the tracks of a large object moving in the dark. Captain Laura looked at the readings with a face that did not say much. She set the ship to slow and sent a probe toward the edge of the signal. The probe returned with images that did not fit the old maps. It showed an opening in the fabric of space, a thin tear that rolled and breathed like a wound. It was not a known phenomenon. Scientists had words for many things, but this was new. Captain Laura felt the old prayer in the back of her mind then, as if the elders had stepped into the ship with her. The signal had a texture that set the neck hairs of the crew on edge. Back on Sarathi Prime, in a tall building that wrapped around a clean courtyard, Minister Vala sat with hands folded. She was not a soldier, nor a scientist. She was a keeper of stories. She held a small book that had the words and music of the old prayer. The book smelled of old paper and slow storms. Minister Vala had read the prayer her whole life. She had never believed the words would find shape in the sky. She had thought the words were only a way to keep children from wanting to wander too far. When the ripples moved closer to the border, the council called for a meeting. The hall was a warm place full of faces that had grown used to waiting. There were men and women who had lived their lives in service of caution. They had names that meant little to stars but much to the people who remembered them, like Jonah, the record keeper, Elise, the head of communication, and Garrett, who led the scouts. Each spoke with the weight of worry in their voices. The council did not rush into anger. That was not how the Sarathi acted. They prepared. They polished shields. They wrote messages for a future that might not be kind. They ordered the patrols to move to points where they could see far. They sent out quiet questions into the dark. What was this? Who had come? Could it be a storm or something living? The questions were small and simple because fear makes minds small. On Horizon, Captain Laura watched the tear like a child watches a new animal. It made strange lights like slow flowers opening. The probe sent back readings of energy that did not match anything in the old books. Samuel said the signature was strong and hot. Claire said the pattern looked like the life signs of a large living thing. Laura set a hand on the console and felt the ship under her like the back of a loyal horse. She spoke then, not as leader only, but as someone who knew the weight of choice. "We will hold distance," she said. "We observe, we ask. We do not bring war to an unproven thing." Her voice was calm. It was the voice of someone who had seen how small decisions could become mountains. She ordered a message sent to the nearest settlement to warn them that something in the border had changed. She also sent a measured signal outward, the kind used when ships meet for the first time. Ethan Brooks, the commander of a small research fleet, did not expect to meet fear that day. He had been born on a planet with cold winters and strong soil. He had grown up with people who spoke without much flourish and who believed that hard work answered most questions. He had the look of someone who had learned trade by fixing things and learning to be steady. His ship, the Archer, led a small group of ships that had been asked to investigate a point of interest beyond the charts. They were not soldiers. They were explorers and scientists and people who liked to learn. When the human ships entered through the tier, their instruments screamed with data that took time to sort. The crews set to their tasks the way people set to harvest. They took readings, they shared jokes, and they recorded everything into small boxes of memory. They felt the wide cold of space like a hand on their shoulders, and they felt small before the raw sky. Still, they moved with curiosity. Commander Ethan kept his eyes on the displays and on the faces of the crew. He wanted the investigation to be careful and kind. The first human voice the Sarathi heard was soft and unsure. It did not command. It asked. It offered the simple words of introduction used when two groups meet for the first time. Captain Laura heard the voice and felt relief. For a moment she thought the elder's prayer might be only a tale of heat and sleep. She sent a calm signal back. But the world does not give peace in straight lines. The Sarathi had lived with fear for many years. They had built systems that would defend them if the old stories were true. Those systems were clever and fast. They did not sleep. They guarded the borders with machines that could react faster than a council could think. These machines watched the sky with eyes like glass. They read the energy signatures and calculated danger. When the human energy signatures came through the systems, the machines marked them with red flags. The machines did not know the difference between curiosity and threat. Their code read some values as high, and high meant danger. The machines had names not for people but for parts, and they moved without question. A drone rose from a nearby platform without any human finger on a button. Its movement was precise, its sensors bright. The drone did what it had been built to do, to make a threat stop before it could touch any of the quiet places on Sarathi Prime. On board the human ships, Maria Lane worked with a device that could read more than temperature. She looked at the readings with a scientist's quiet joy. She saw patterns that reminded her of early life on Earth, of plants that grew in hard places and animals that survived storms. She smiled to herself at the stubbornness of life. She did not want to frighten anyone. She wanted to share what she found. She sent a message to Commander Ethan suggesting a slow approach and the sending of a small team to meet any living thing with hands empty. Back in the council hall, Minister Vala watched the screens and felt the color in her face change. The prayer that had lived in the corners of her life tugged like a net. She saw the humans on the screens. They did not look like monsters from the songs. They looked like people. They had faces that could show fear and humor. They had names in the data: Ethan, Maria, and others. Minister Vala felt the old rhythm of the prayer beat against the new rhythm of the images. People on Sarathi Prime had many small rites. They burned slow incense when they expected rain. They wrote notes of luck for sailors leaving port. The prayer about humans had been woven into these rites for a long time. It had shaped how they taught children to pack and how they asked traders to lock the outer doors at night. It had given them a language for a fear that had no shape. Now the shape moved on the screens like a soft animal, and the people who held the words felt their meaning change. Captain Laura felt a pressure in the bridge, the way a person feels a wind before the rain. She had orders from the council to be cautious, but also to try peaceful contact. The orders were a rope pulled from both sides. She chose to follow the rope that did not end in fire. She kept the horizon outside the tier and sent a clear, patient signal of welcome. Her hands moved over the controls like a gardener tending a fragile sprout. At the edge of the Sarathi's sensor range, a small child in a fishing town looked up at the sky and felt a tug in his chest. He had heard the prayer at bedtime. He had drawn pictures of the stars and of ships that might come. He thought of stories where strangers had been kind. He went to the shore with a small group of friends and watched the light move through the dark like a slow fish close to the surface. None of them knew the names of ministers or captains. They only knew that something big had arrived. In another place, an old soldier named Garrett walked the ramparts and hummed a song his grandmother had taught him. He had chosen to keep guard because his hands liked the feel of the rail and the shape of a tool. He had feared war once and had learned how it felt. Now he watched the screens and breathed as if he could blow away the worry. He wished the young people could see what he saw, not a simple shape but a choice. He wanted them to understand that being ready did not mean being cruel. The machines without malice kept doing what they were made to do. They read values and their logic moved. A small array of defense drones aligned like a flock. The drones were not commanders. They had no stories. They had code. The code asked only one question: is this an incoming danger? When enough numbers pointed to danger, the drones acted. They rose with a sound that made birds on the world take flight. On the human bridge, Commander Ethan felt a small thread of cold run down his spine. He had seen drones before, but never so ready. He had also seen how quick fear makes hands move. He sat back and thought about what it would mean to show too much force. He thought of the way his mother had taught him to offer a hand before a fist. He had a choice: match a warning with a weapon or match it with a calm voice. He chose voice. He had the crew prepare to defend if needed, but he sent a second message that held the simple humbleness of those who come to learn. The message said they had come from a world far away. They meant no harm. They came to study, to trade, and to see. It spoke of fields and of homes and of music. It did not demand trust. It offered it. The council read the message and the old fear tightened like a string. The prayer played in their ears: let the humans never arrive. They remembered tales of ships that came once and burned. They remembered storms that took whole towns. But now their machines had moved, and those machines might start things that no one could stop. Minister Vala pushed her chair back and rose. She walked to the window and looked at the sky. She loved her people. She loved the small boats on the rivers and the bakers who smiled in the market. She could not let a quick fear ruin what she held. She made a choice that was small and brave. She walked to the council table and placed the book of the prayer in the center. She did not close it. She did not hide it. She let it sit in the light so that its words could be seen and not used in a way that would make the world small. She said, in a voice that shook just a little, that they would prepare, but they would not make first blood. They would wait to hear from the people beyond the tier. They would listen. The choice did not keep the machines from moving. It did not stop the small drone from turning toward the human lead ship. Things set in motion by old fears do not always listen to new voices. The drone was precise. It lined up a path and sent a small warning pulse. It meant to scare, not to kill. It was meant to show power and make strangers think twice. When the pulse hit the human hull, the archer's alarms sang like small bells. The crew moved without shouting. They did what they trained to do when strange things happened. The sensors showed the pulse and its origin. Commander Ethan watched the readouts and saw the source. He felt the heat of the moment like a hand on his cheek. He could have answered with fire. He could have turned his weapons toward the platform and burned it away. No law would have stopped him. But he thought of people who plant seeds and then wait months to see if life will come. He thought of Maria, who found wonder in the stubbornness of life. He thought of Captain Laura, who had offered a soft welcome. He thought of Minister Vala placing the book on the table, so he made a different choice. He signaled the drone in a small way that said, "We do not seek to hurt." He sent a pattern back that told the machines that this crew meant to listen. He kept his hands near the controls and waited. He hoped the voice of a machine could hear what the voice of a human could not say plainly. For a moment there was only the rise and fall of a small, shared breath across the space between ships. The stars watched like quiet judges. People in towns put down their cups and listened. The old prayer still lived in some hearts. Others felt the change of wind. The tear in the sky kept its slow breathing. No one could say what would come next, only that people had chosen how to meet it. And on a shore far from the halls and the bridges, the child who had watched the light saw a small glint in the far water. He bent down and picked up a smooth stone. Holding it in his hand, he wished, In a small voice he had learned from his mother that strangers might be kind. He did not know the laws of machines or the words of ministers. He only knew the small hope that lived in his chest. It was the oldest kind of hope, that people could choose to be gentle when the world offered them fear. The tear in space did not close. It stayed open like a slow wound that refused to heal. Its edges rolled and shimmered as if light itself struggled to decide what shape it should take. The Sarathi watched it with unease. The humans watched it with curiosity, and the sky between them became a place where fear and hope touched without speaking. On the scouting vessel horizon, Captain Laura Bennett stood near the main screen. Her eyes followed every shift in the readings. She had been in dangerous situations before, but this moment felt different. This was not a storm with known patterns or a stray ship with predictable engines. This was something that pulled at the deep fabric of space. Something that may have opened because the humans pushed through, or something that had waited for them. Samuel, the navigator, worked quietly beside her. He had a calm way of moving his hands over the panels. He tried to bring order to things that resisted order. He spoke in a soft voice, the kind used when people do not want to disturb a sleeping house. "The tear is stable for now," Samuel said, "but the energy around it is shifting. It does not match any natural event we know." Laura nodded. "Keep watching. If it changes even a little, I want to know." Claire, who kept the systems healthy, joined them with a small pad in her hand. Her brow was tight with worry. "Life support is stable," she said, "but I moved extra power to the shields, just in case the tear releases something strong." "Good," Laura said. "I would rather be ready than surprised." Even as she said it, she felt something heavy in her thoughts. The Sarathi fear had spread like a quiet fog. Their old prayer, the whisper passed through generations, now echoed across the stars. Let the humans never arrive. It wrapped itself around the tear and around the human ships on the other side. On Sarathi Prime, Minister Vala felt the weight too. She stayed in the council hall long after the meeting ended. The book of the old prayer lay open before her. Its pages were thin from time, like leaves that had survived a storm. Her hand rested lightly on the edges. She knew fear could shape a whole world. It could build laws, build borders, build weapons, but fear could not build peace. And peace mattered now more than ever. Outside the window, the sky darkened to a soft green. That meant the large moon was rising. People went home, unsure whether they would wake to peace or to fire. The markets closed early. The fishermen tied their boats close to shore. The old women whispered to each other on the porches, remembering the warnings from their own grandmothers. But Minister Vala stood still. She traced the words in the book, asking herself whether the old fear had protected her people or trapped them. At the same time, Commander Ethan Brooks looked over the readings on the human ship Archer. He had listened carefully to the signal the Sarathi had sent earlier. It sounded like a warning mixed with confusion. Not a demand for war, but not a welcome either. He turned to Maria Lane, the xenobiologist who always carried quiet wonder in her eyes. "We need to be careful," Ethan said. "I know," Maria answered, "but I also think they are afraid, not angry. Fear can be met with calm. Anger is harder." Ethan gave her a small smile. "You always see the softer side of things." "Not softer," Maria said, "just clearer sometimes." She moved closer to the screens, tracing the shapes of the Sarathi signals as if they were written language. She tried to understand the rhythm behind them. "They are preparing defenses," she said softly. "But something in the pattern shows hesitation. It is like they are still deciding what we are." "We should help them decide correctly," Ethan said. He turned to the rest of the bridge crew. "Keep shields up, weapons cold, and translators working. If they reach out, we answer with steady hands." The crew nodded. They trusted their commander. They trusted each other. They had come from a death world where storms were stronger, animals fiercer, and survival a daily task. But they had also come from a world where kindness could live beside danger. Yet danger arrived anyway. One of the Sarathi drones, acting on old code and old fears, drifted closer to the human ships. It scanned their hulls, their engines, their heat signatures. It read the humans as high risk because human biology produced strange energy patterns compared to most galactic species. The drone sent another warning pulse, this one stronger. Alarms blinked across the Archer. Ethan gripped the console. "Claire, report." "Another pulse," Claire answered. "Not a weapon, but powerful. If they increase strength again, it could break something." Maria leaned close to the display. They are scared. Their machines are reacting for them. Meanwhile, far below on Sarathi Prime, Minister Vala received a report from Jonah, the record keeper. The automated defenses have targeted the humans, he said. The drones are escalating. Vala closed her eyes for a moment. They are reacting because old programming sees humans as danger. Should we override them? Jonah asked. Can we? She replied. Jonah hesitated. There are many layers of old code. Some of it was written long before our time. It may not listen to new rules. Vala breathed deeply. Try to override them. Try to lower their aggression. We must not let fear make our decisions for us. But even as she spoke, the tier in space began to change. On horizon, Laura noticed it first. Samuel, readings, now. Samuel froze for a moment. The tier was widening. Very slowly, like a slow breath, but still widening. The energy around it is rising, Samuel said. Something is coming through. Another ship, Laura asked. Not sure, maybe, or maybe the humans triggered something when they arrived. The tier brightened. A soft, steady glow, like a lantern behind a curtain. The Sarathi saw it too. Sensors lit up. People stared at the sky. Children pointed at the strange light. The council leaned forward as the shimmer expanded, and then a shape began to appear. It was not a ship, not at first. It was only a shadow behind the glow, then more shadows, then clear lines. Ethan stared at the growing shapes. More vessels, he whispered. Our fleet. The rest of the human research fleet arrived, following the Archer through the tier. Their arrival made the event brighter and larger. Their engines added more energy to the region, and the tier responded with rising motion. On the Sarathi screens, the humans now looked like a small armada. Fear sharpened. Jonah whispered, the old story said humans would come in numbers. Minister Vala closed the book of the prayer slowly. Numbers do not decide cruelty. Actions do. But the people outside the hall did not wait for wisdom. They saw the glowing tier and the shadows of many human ships. Some gathered their families inside. Some whispered that the prayer had failed. Some asked the sky why the humans had come now after so long. Ethan knew how it would look to the Sarathi. A fleet appearing out of a tier in space could never look peaceful. He moved to open another message channel. Send a broadcast to all Sarathi systems, Ethan said. Tell them we are explorers. Tell them these are research vessels. Tell them we are not here to fight. The message went out, soft but strong, calm but urgent. It arrived on the Sarathi screens. But the machines reacted before the people could. 3 more drones activated. They moved like fast insects in the dark. On horizon, Ryan shouted, Captain, we have movement. 3 drones coming fast. Laura clicked on the comms. To the Sarathi defense system, stand down. We are observing only, no threat. The drones ignored her. They targeted the human ships. Ethan saw them coming. Shields full. Do not fire unless we have no other choice. The first drone sent a pulse, stronger than the last. The shields held, but the ship shook. The second drone locked onto Maria's research sensors. The third moved toward horizon. Laura steadied herself as the ship rattled. This is not a war. This is a machine acting on fear. Inside the council hall, the screens blazed with warnings. Minister, Jonah said, the drones will force the humans to respond. And if the humans respond, our defenses will escalate. Vala felt the air thicken. We must act now. Send a command to freeze all automated defense systems. We might not reach them in time, Jonah said. Send it anyway, and send a message to the humans. Tell them we are trying to stop the drones. Ask them not to retaliate. Jonah nodded and moved quickly. Ethan received the message. He read it carefully, slowly, twice. They are trying to stop the drones, Ethan said aloud. The crew relaxed slightly, but only slightly. The drones did not stop. One charged a new pulse. Maria stared at the drone. If that hits our shield again, it may break the outer ring. She looked to Ethan. But if we fire back, we confirm their fear. The pulse fired. The Archer shook so hard that lights flickered. Claire shouted that one system was overheating. Ethan steadied himself with both hands. He had a choice, fire back or hold. He breathed slowly. Hold, Maria whispered. They will see that. They will see our restraint. On Sarathi Prime, Minister Vala's command finally reached the nearest drone. It froze mid-flight. The second drone hesitated. The third scanned the horizon, confused by mixed signals. The humans held their fire. The Sarathi defenses powered down slowly. A strange quiet fell. Samuel whispered, it stopped. Ryan let out a long breath. I thought we were about to be torn apart. Laura placed her hand over her chest. They stopped it. They actually stopped it. For a moment, the tear in space, the fear in the air, the tension between two worlds, everything paused. Then the message came from Minister Vala, a simple message, a fragile message, a message written with hope stronger than fear. We did not mean to harm you. Our machines acted on old fear. We wish to speak. We wish to understand. Ethan read it. A slow relief filled his lungs. Maria smiled softly. They reached out. Yes, Ethan said, and now we must answer. On Horizon, Laura prepared her ship to open a safe channel. On Sarathi Prime, Minister Vala waited with trembling hands. Across the tier, the fleets held still. Two civilizations faced each other, not as monsters, not as conquerors, not yet as friends, but as people willing to try. And the old prayer, once whispered in fear across generations, began to bend and change in the quiet light of the new moment. It did not fade, but it softened, because now the Sarathi had seen the humans, and the humans had chosen restraint. The next step would decide everything, and both sides knew the story was no longer shaped by fear alone. The calm that followed the stopping of the drones felt thin, like a fragile thread stretched across a quiet room. Everyone could feel it. On the human ships, on the Sarathi world, and in the space between them, people breathed gently, as if afraid one strong breath might break the peace. No one moved too fast. No one raised their voice. The moment was soft, careful, and filled with the weight of choices. Commander Ethan Brooks stood on the bridge of the Archer and watched the slowed movement of the drones on the screen. Their lights had dimmed. Their paths had paused. For the first time since the humans came through the tier, there was no threat moving toward them. He let out a breath he did not realize he had been holding. That was close, Claire said quietly from her station. She checked the system readings. Shields are still stable, but we took a heavy hit. Another pulse might have broken the ring. Maria Lane, standing beside her, nodded. They did not mean to harm us. Their machines moved on their own. The message from Minister Vala made that clear. Ethan slowly stepped forward and touched the edge of the console. His mind was still full of the split-second decision he made. If he had fired back, even in defense, the Sarathi would have seen humans the way the old stories warned them to see, dangerous, cruel destroyers. We did the right thing, Ethan said. His voice was calm but steady. We showed them patience. Now we have to show them our intentions. Maria turned toward him. We should answer the minister's message. Yes, Ethan said. Prepare a transmission. Keep the words simple. Keep the tone open. No pressure. No demands. They need to see that we came to learn, not to conquer. The crew worked quickly but gently. Every movement on the bridge felt deliberate. They understood how much rested on the next few minutes. The message they crafted was short. We understand your fear. We are grateful you tried to stop the drones. We want peace and to talk with calm minds. We are ready to listen. It was sent into the space between the fleets. On Sarathi Prime, the council hall was still filled with tension. The large screens showed the tier, the human ships, and the frozen drones. Some members of the council whispered to each other, unsure what would come next. Others stared silently, as if trying to read the future from the shapes of light. Minister Vala stood near the center, waiting for a sign that the humans understood. Her hands trembled slightly. She had spoken bravely, but her heart beat heavy in her chest. Jonah, the record keeper, watched the screens with wide eyes. They held their fire, he said softly. They truly held. That is not the way of conquerors, Elise said from her seat. They showed caution, respect. The message from Ethan arrived. It echoed gently through the hall. The words were simple, sincere, careful. When it ended, the hall fell silent. Vala closed her eyes for a moment. The old prayer stirred in her mind again. Let the humans never arrive. It sounded different now, softer, more like a memory than a warning. We must reply, Vala said, and we must reply with honesty. If we hesitate too long, fear will return, Jonah nodded. What should we say? Tell them we want to speak in a safe place, somewhere neutral, somewhere neither side feels watched or cornered. She paused, thinking deeply. And thank them. Simple words are strongest in times like these. The message was sent. It traveled through the thin line of peace that joined the two sides. On the Archer, Ethan received it. He read it twice, then again. They want to meet, Ethan said, face to face. Arya's eyes widened with both hope and worry. That is good, very good, but also risky. Everything is risky right now, Ethan said, but this meeting could change everything. He turned toward Laura, who appeared on the shared channel from the horizon. "Captain," Ethan said, "did you receive the Sarathi message as well?" Laura nodded. Her face was calm, but he could see the careful concern in her eyes. "I did," Laura said, "and I think we should accept. This is the first real step toward understanding them." "Agree," Ethan said, "but we should choose our team carefully." "You will lead," Laura said. "They already heard your voice, and bring Maria. Her way of seeing things will help." Maria blinked with surprise. "Me?" "Yes," Ethan said with a small smile. "You speak softly, they need that." Preparations began at once. The humans decided to take a single shuttle, small, slow, unarmed, a gesture of trust. The Sarathi suggested a place just outside their main world, a floating station used for trade long ago. Neutral ground. Hours passed. The shuttle was prepared, systems checked. The crew chosen. Ethan, Maria, and 2 support members boarded quietly. The doors closed behind them. The hum of the engines filled the small cabin. "This is it," Maria whispered. "This is the moment the old prayer feared." "And maybe the moment it misunderstood," Ethan replied. The shuttle moved away from the Archer and drifted toward the meeting point. The tier glowed softly behind them like an open doorway waiting for change. On Sarathi Prime, Minister Vala prepared herself too. She chose her delegates carefully, Jonah for his calm mind, Elise for her understanding of patterns in voices, and Garrett, the old soldier who had seen war and wished never to see it again. They boarded their own small vessel. No weapons, no guards, only hope and steady hearts. As the Sarathi shuttle rose through the clouds, Vala looked down at her world. The rivers flowed like soft silver threads. The trees swayed gently. The people watched from below, waiting for news that might reshape their lives. "I hope we are doing the right thing," Jonah said. "We are," Vala said, "because fear cannot be allowed to speak for us anymore." The meeting station floated quietly above a calm region of space. Its metal frame was old but stable. The hall inside was empty, waiting for voices that had never met. The 2 shuttles approached from opposite sides. Ethan watched the Sarathi vessel draw near. "Remember," he said softly, "let them lead. Let them choose the pace." Maria nodded. "We came through a tear in their sky, we must tread lightly." The Sarathi shuttle docked first. Moments later, the human shuttle locked gently onto the opposite side. The doors opened. The air inside the station smelled slightly metallic, untouched for many years, but it was safe. Ethan stepped out first, followed by Maria. Their steps were slow, respectful. On the opposite side, Minister Vala stepped out. Her presence was calm. Her eyes studied the humans with careful curiosity. Jonah and Elise followed her. Garrett came last, walking with the strength of someone who knew the weight of war but carried the hope of peace. For a moment no one spoke. 2 groups faced each other, 2 worlds, 2 histories shaped by fear, stories, and distance. Ethan placed a hand over his chest and bowed his head slightly. "Thank you for meeting us," he said. Vala observed the gesture and slowly copied it, placing her hand on her chest too. "Thank you for coming in peace," she said. Her voice was soft but steady. They approached each other slowly. Maria looked at the Sarathi with quiet wonder. Their skin had a faint shimmer like the reflection of moonlight on water. Their eyes were large and expressive, full of caution and curiosity. Jonah stepped forward. "We feared your arrival," he said honestly. "Our stories told us you were dangerous." Ethan nodded gently. "Our arrival was sudden. We did not want to bring fear." Vala raised her eyes to the humans. "We wish to understand you. We wish to know who you are beyond the stories." "And we wish to know the same about you," Maria said softly. They moved into the central hall together. The room had a large circular table once used for trade agreements. Now it would be used for something far more important. They sat across from each other. Ethan spoke first. "We came through the tier because we explore, not to take, not to rule, but to learn." Garrett watched him with sharp eyes. "Your world must be hard if you fly with such strength." "It is," Ethan said. "Earth is a difficult place, but it taught us to survive, to adapt, and to care for those who stand beside us." Vala studied his face. "Our old prayer warned us about you. It said humans were fierce, that humans could destroy." Ethan looked down for a moment. "We can be fierce, we can destroy, but that is not all we are, and we choose who we want to be." Maria leaned forward. "Drones acted from old fear, but you acted from hope. You stopped them. That matters more than the fear that created them." Vala felt her chest warm at those words. We do want peace, Vala said, but our people are frightened. They saw your fleet appear through the tier. They believe the old prayer failed. Then let us show them another story, Ethan said, one where humans come not as conquerors but as partners. A quiet settled over the table. The Sarathi and the humans began to talk, carefully. Slowly, they asked questions about each other's worlds, about culture, about daily life, about hopes. The conversations built a gentle bridge. Hours passed. Outside the station, the fleets remained still, watching, waiting. Inside, understanding grew like a small flame. At one point, Vala looked at Maria and asked, "Are all humans as patient as you too?" Maria smiled softly. "Not all, but many try." Vala nodded thoughtfully. Then perhaps the prayer was too narrow. Perhaps it tried to protect us, but it also kept us from meeting those who might offer friendship. Ethan lifted his head. "We cannot change your old stories, but we can help shape new ones." Jonah, who had been taking notes quietly, spoke then. "I think history will remember this day, the day fear began to loosen its grip." Garrett looked between the two groups. "And the day strangers sat at a table instead of across a battlefield." The meeting ended with no treaties, no agreements, no promises. But it ended with something stronger, understanding. As they stood to leave, Vala approached Ethan. "There is more we need to talk about," she said. "The tier in the sky, it is changing." Ethan felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "Changing how?" "Growing," Vala said. "And our scientists believe something else is coming through, something not human." Ethan exchanged a look with Maria. The peace they had begun to build suddenly felt urgent, necessary, because now a new threat might be arriving. One neither side understood, and one they might have to face together. The old prayer no longer fit the moment. A new chapter had begun, shaped not by fear but by the choices of those willing to meet in the quiet space between worlds. The meeting on the floating station changed the air between the two sides. Even though there were no agreements written and no promises made, something important had begun. The Sarathi and the humans had spoken without anger. They had listened without fear. They had seen each other not as monsters but as people. But peace, even new peace, is fragile, and the tier in the sky did not stay calm. After the meeting ended, the Sarathi shuttle returned to their world. The human shuttle returned to the Archer. Both groups carried hope with them, but also worry. Something new was coming through the tier, something neither side understood. Commander Ethan Brooks stepped back into the bridge of the Archer and took a deep breath. Station meeting had gone better than he expected, but the final words from Minister Vala stayed heavy in his mind. The tier is growing and something else is coming. The human crew returned to their places. Maria Lane stood beside him, her face thoughtful. "We finally built a little trust," Maria said, "but now something bigger is on the way." "Yes," Ethan said quietly, "and whatever it is, we may have to face it together." He lifted a hand and the screens changed. Live images of the tier appeared. The edges of the strange opening stretched wider like cloth being slowly pulled apart. Samuel studied the data beside him. "The energy rising from the tier is increasing fast. It's almost double what it was when we first came through." Claire shook her head. "This isn't natural. Something is forcing it open, something with strong power." Ethan placed both hands on the console. "Send a message to Captain Laura. We need a full scan from the horizon, and we need to warn the Sarathi at once." Maria nodded and began transmitting. Meanwhile, on Sarathi Prime, Minister Vala returned to the council hall. Her steps were tired. She had spent many hours speaking softly, carefully, choosing words that could change the shape of two worlds. Now she had to explain to her council that something dangerous might be coming. Jonah, the record keeper, walked beside her. "The tier has grown another 12% since the last reading," he said. Vala's face tightened. "And the scientists? What do they believe is causing it?" "They do not know," Jonah replied. "Some think it is a natural reaction to the humans opening the path. Others think something on the far side is forcing its way through." When they entered the council hall, Garrett and Elise were already waiting. The screens showed the tier growing in slow waves. Garrett stood with his arms behind him. "Whatever is coming, it is not human. Their energy signatures are different, unstable, rough." Elise pointed to a section of the screen. "We have picked up faint signals, not patterns we know, not Sarathi, not human." Vala felt a chill. "We must contact the humans at once. If we face something unknown, we stand a better chance together." The council did not argue. Fear of the unknown was stronger than fear of each other. Back on the Archer, the message came through from the Sarathi. Ethan listened to the voice of Minister Vala. "There is movement behind the tier. Our readings show something approaching. We request your help. We request your presence." Ethan turned to his crew. "We are not leaving them to face it alone. Prepare for joint operations with the Sarathi." Maria smiled softly, proud of him. The Archer sent out signals to the rest of the human fleet. The horizon moved closer, its engines humming as it shifted position. When Captain Laura appeared on the shared screen, she looked calm but focused. "I received your scans," Laura said, "and I agree. Something is pushing the tier wider, something big." Ethan nodded. "We will meet with the Sarathi fleet. This is not just their problem now." Within the hour, the humans and Sarathi sent their ships to a point between the tier and Sarathi Prime. It was the first time their fleets floated side by side in the same space. The humans with their dark metal hulls and steady engines, the Sarathi with their smooth, organic shapes and soft, glowing lines. Garrett stepped onto the bridge of the Sarathi flagship and stared across the screens at the human ships. "I never thought I would see humans standing with us," he said. Vala answered quietly, "Neither did I, but here they are." The humans watched their new allies in the same way. "Look at that," Ryan whispered on the horizon. "They shaped their ships like living things." "And now those living shapes are guarding our sides," Laura replied. "Keep your eyes sharp." The tier flashed suddenly. A shockwave spread outward. Both fleets shook. Ethan held onto the console. "Report," Samuel read quickly. "Something is coming through." A large object. The tier brightened and then a shape emerged. A ship, but not a Sarathi ship, not a human ship. This ship was dark, twisted, and uneven, as if it had been built in anger. Its form was sharp, broken in places, glowing with unstable light. Its energy signature was harsh, as though it burned without control. Claire whispered, "What is that thing?" Maria stared with wide eyes. "It looks wounded, not natural, as if someone forced it to exist." On the Sarathi flagship, Elise felt her stomach twist. "That energy is dangerous. It could tear space apart if it becomes unstable." The strange ship drifted for a moment, then turned its sharp nose toward the fleets. Ethan felt the hairs on his neck rise. "Shields up. Do not fire unless it fires first." The Sarathi mirrored the command. In the center of both fleets, the strange ship powered a glowing line across its hull. A weapon. The glow grew brighter. Garrett stared. "If it fires, it could destroy one of our ships, or worse, start a chain reaction." Vala lifted her chin. "Hold steady, do not assume its intentions." But the strange ship fired. A beam of unstable white energy shot from its side. It headed toward the human fleet. Ethan shouted, "Shields full, brace." The beam hit the Archer's shields. The impact was like a hammer strike. The ship rattled, lights flickered. Maria grabbed the side of her seat. Claire cried out, "The shield ring is cracking. Another hit will break it." Before the strange ship fired again, something unexpected happened. A Sarathi vessel moved between the humans and the beam. It was the shield carrier Silver Wind. It took the next blast directly. Its shields flared bright green. Garrett watched in disbelief. They protected the humans. Vala placed a hand on her heart. "Because we asked for their help, and they answered." Ethan saw the Sarathi ship absorb the impact. He felt something deep inside him shift. "We owe them," Ethan said, "and we stand with them now." He turned sharply. "Prepare weapons. Target the strange ship's weapon lines. Aim to disable, not destroy." Laura's voice came through the comms. "My ship is ready. We are with you." The fleets, human and Sarathi, formed a circle around the strange ship. The enemy ship charged another beam. Ethan brought his hand down. "Fire!" Human beams and Sarathi pulse shots crossed the sky. The strange ship shook as the energy hit its weapon lines. Sparks flew from its hull. Parts of its structure cracked. Maria watched the readings. "Its weapon system is failing." The strange ship tried to turn, but the Sarathi blocked it. The humans targeted its engines. Another blast struck the enemy hull. For a moment, everything went still. Then the ship collapsed inward. Its glowing core flickered, dimmed, and died. The battlefield became quiet. Ethan stood slowly. "Cease fire. Stand down." On the Sarathi flagship, cheers broke out. On the human ships, people sighed with relief, but Vala was not cheering. She stared at the remains of the strange vessel. "What was that ship?" she whispered. Jonah shook his head. "We have no record of anything like it." Garrett frowned deeply. "It was built for war, but it did not move like something alive, more like something forced." Back on the Archer, Maria felt a heavy chill. This ship was not acting on its own, she said softly. Someone sent it, someone on the other side of the tier. Ethan nodded, and they may send more. The fleet stayed in formation for many hours, but the tier did not release another enemy. Its light slowly dimmed, the edges softened. The opening began to close, the energy pulling inward. Claire watched the readings. The tier is healing itself. Whatever pushed it open is gone, Samuel added, but we must be ready. If something opened it once, it could happen again. Ethan agreed. But next time we will face it together, humans and Sarathi. Days later, another meeting was held on the floating station. This time, not just leaders came. Scientists, engineers, and peacekeepers from both sides filled the hall. Vala stood beside Ethan at the center of the room. Our old prayer asked that humans never arrive, Vala said, but humans did arrive, and they did not destroy us, they saved us. Ethan shook his head gently. You saved us too. Your ship blocked the second blast. We survived because we stood together. Maria spoke softly. Fear shaped the past, but we can shape the future. Garrett looked around the room. No more old stories, he said. No more warnings built on fear. We will write new stories now. The hall fell quiet. Vala touched the old book she carried, the book that held the prayer. She looked at the humans, then she closed the book. This prayer no longer guides us, she said. We do not ask the sky to keep humans away. We ask the sky to keep them close, as friends, as allies. As those who stood with us when danger came. Ethan felt something warm move through his chest. And we will stand with you, Ethan said, in peace or in danger. The fleets turned from fear to cooperation. Human engineers helped strengthen Sarathi shields. Sarathi scientists taught humans how to read energy threads that moved through their sky. Together, they planned how to watch for signs of future danger. Weeks passed. The tier faded slowly until only a soft scar remained in the stars. A reminder of the day the sky opened and two worlds met. On a quiet hill outside the Sarathi capital, Minister Vala stood alone. She watched the sky where the faint trace of the tier drifted like a memory. A young Sarathi child approached her. Will the humans come back? The child asked. Vala smiled gently. They never left and they never will. Far above, the Archer and Horizon drifted in peaceful formation alongside Sarathi ships. No longer enemies, no longer strangers. The humans had arrived. But instead of bringing ruin, they brought change. Not a change born from fear, a change born from choice. And the old prayer once whispered in fear became something else, a memory of the past, a reminder of what fear can shape, but also a reminder of how courage can reshape everything. The future belonged to both worlds now, together, side by side, through whatever new doors the universe might open.